This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of the Suffering of Retaliation with Freddie Mitchell. Stay tuned because part 2 starts now. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Falaise, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. Follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but that did slip my mind, that her family got murdered. And they were down south?
They were in outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Or Hershey, some part of Pennsylvania. I think it was Harrisburg.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What exactly
Bucks
happened?
County. Her older brother ended up murdering her younger brother, the mother, and my Uncle Lewis. It's a triple homicide.
Wow. Any motive behind that?
He just...
Snaps?
Yeah, sick. Going through it. Mental illness. Got in an argument with his mother. Her younger brother was supposed to move to New Jersey with us. I was going to take David in. He's my brother-in-law. And he was going through it with the family and everything. So I said, have your brother stay with us. I loved him. He was my brother-in-law. I just tried to get him to come to Jersey, get away from Junior. And the mother was doing better. But they got in an argument one weekend, and she was supposed to go there with Gianna. And I was like, that's not going to happen, because he was calling every night, not making any sense. My
Your instincts
kicked
are up.
in. Yeah, and I'm like, nah. And if you're going to go to Pennsylvania, I got to go. So I stopped. I didn't let her go. And then 2 days later, we get the phone call, and I come back into work. And then I'm about to get on the desk. I'm doing a little bit of light duty. I go upstairs, and then I get a call to come back downstairs, going to the chief's office, and then I got the state police from Pennsylvania on the phone. And the first thing out of the state trooper's mouth is like, do you know a Gladys Mendez, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that's my wife at the time name. And then when the trooper said David Mendez, I was like, well, she got a mother. She's named after her mother. I said, David is the brother. And I said, what happened? I said, and it's the state trooper. So, we're on the job. And long story short, he started running down everybody's name. And then I said, what did Junior do? Because I already knew some of the problems that were going on. And then he was sorry to inform you that, there was a triple homicide. And then, Gladys, the mother, David, my Uncle Lewis, and then Demetrius, which is Junior, we called him, had taken their life.
So after he did this triple homicide, he took his own life?
No, he went to prison.
He went to prison?
At the end of the day, going to court all the time and seeing things. And, we saw him. He pled guilty to it. He wanted to go to trial and plead some other things, but we pretty much convinced him that, take responsibility for what he did. I didn't want him to bring I talked to him in the cell by himself, which was a little rare in light of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not a little guy, dude.
No.
Yeah.
So that was that's one of the things that, that I was allowed to do in the situation, because when you murder a cop's family, the system is going to look a little different to you when you're locked up.
Yeah, it's one of the perks I think we used to have. I don't think they have
Not
that
anymore.
Yeah.
They knew that when I walked into court, that's what happened. So, it was part in the Red Sea. No one said anything. It's like, went in there and talked to him. I said, the last thing I said, I'm not going to come see you ever. I said, but you don't need to drag your sister through going through all the stuff that you did, because I saw the file. I saw what he did. It had the schematics of the scene. I've been to the house, we took over the home and had to sell it, and, the crime scene investigation, the photos and everything. I said, you need to spare her that. You did it, so... and it wasn't going to be done with that. That wasn't the only people on the list of things to do.
What did this do to your then wife's psyche?
It was downhill from there.
Yeah.
Downhill. And obviously I suffered behind that, because it's a survivor's guilt. She no longer wanted to be around. And then, And there began the problem.
So I've often said to you, your one mistake in your previous marriage, this is what you're guilty of. The one thing you're guilty of. You're guilty of trying to keep your family together, which is not a chargeable offense. That's actually a noble cause that you're trying to do. And you watched your family, and you're trying to shield these two young, beautiful children when your wife at the time is in crisis. I mean, she's not doing well.
She needed help.
Yeah.
She needed the court system. And I think the system itself, obviously in the department at some point during that process, failed me at a high level.
Well, yeah, as you move forward, they failed you on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
So how did this affect your police work job? Were you able to shut it out to some extent? I mean, that's a tough thing to shut out.
It becomes a point where now we have other things. We have things that are happening inside the police department that are now running coincided with my situation at home with my ex-wife.
You're no longer the golden child.
Nah.
You're no longer on the A team.
Not at all.
And that seemed to be the way our department went, is you started out on the A team, and then the minute you said anything or questioned or just spoke up, you were put on the B team. It stinks that way because, as a boss, okay, if you're a good boss, you should have one person around you at all times to tell you, hey, bro, you're doing something that's a little fucked up.
Right.
All right, not in front of everybody, because that's not what you need. You need to have that confidant to keep you in check. And we didn't have that there. So I know you started to verbalize some of your things, some of the things that you saw as a deficiency within the department, and I think that's probably what killed you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So now you're fighting this two-front war. And being any type of military tactician, what's the first thing they tell you? Never fight a two-front war. It's a recipe for disaster. You're at home, you're trying to keep your house together, and now all of a sudden the department is coming in and they're hitting you, so you're getting hit from all different angles. So who did you lean on at this time?
I was on my own. And and it's just like only God knows. You know what I mean? There's like a guy leaning into something, right? The faith's in place, you keep the hope, I'm trying to get they're coming for me on the job. The ex-wife's saying and making false allegations and complaining, and I'm going to court all the time. Now the job's got something going on. It's like, where do you begin?
I remember hearing about one of the situations where you had a domestic or whatever it was. I remember hearing about it, and my initial reaction was like, oh no. And you took some heat for it inside the department. I don't know how you kept it straight, bro. I really don't know how you kept it straight.
You know what's disheartening and the shame that I'm pretty tactical, and I know the rules that come behind the DVs. But to protect my daughter and son from my wife's crisis, I removed my weapons from my house myself voluntarily.
They were your father's weapons.
Some of them,
yeah.
And then I had my personal, and then it's the department weapon.
So for people who are listening who aren't in police work, when you get a domestic violence complaint where a temporary restraining order is put into place, you get your weapons taken from you.
Right.
And taking a cop's weapon, it's like taking their genitalia away from them. It's really emasculating. It's really embarrassing.
Right.
It's an awful experience. And you had to go through that all at once. All at once. Where the department, listen, that's procedural. That's right. You can't blame that on the department. That's procedural. But then the department's trying to backdoor you and do all these different things. And there was this slow progression where you get back on the road for a little bit, and then something else would pop off.
Well, see, the thing is with the slow progression, they didn't start to not follow SOP. They didn't start following retraining. They didn't do the things that they would do in progression as, okay, you got to go to anger management. But how do I go to anger management when I have custody of my daughter and son, and the ex-wife has therapeutic visitation?
That's a big deal.
It's like, how do you make that make it make sense to me?
The state of New Jersey said you were not angry enough to watch your children, but you were too angry to be a police officer.
And then, the matter of fact, what made it real difficult for them is that because I didn't have a restraining order, How do you keep me off the road with my duty weapon? So when you look at the balances, now you see the ill intent that's involved. As long as the complaints were coming in, now it's just an open investigation that stays current in your current situation.
So why do you think they went after you so hard?
That could become because I just started, like you said, you started looking at the discrepancies within the department. You start looking at the things that aren't right. Obviously lawsuits had came at a later point based on certain aspects of mistreatment or violating certain laws, that we're governed under. It's just like, some people had immunity and some people weren't being held accountable, or you were dropping a hammer on people that you were going way beyond the scope of your your authority. When I was looking at my situation and going through things, I sat on that desk for 3 years.
Yes, longest stretch ever.
3 years.
You beat my record.
Yeah.
You beat my record. I was 9 months.
That was the punishment.
That was a punishment because you're not a guy that sits indoors.
No.
But see, here's your valuable weapon. Here's your most valuable asset in your life is you're an educated man.
Mm.
And so you use that time on the desk. I used to see you reading, doing, you're going through your court battles at home with your home life, and you're reading. You know case law better than anybody. You're basically a lawyer without the legal degree. And then you're fighting to keep your family together. You're fighting to keep your house, which that magic trick and all that was
a magic hat, right?
That was an amazing magic trick. So, and then finally one day, the hammer drops. But there was some backdoor stuff on this.
Yes.
They said you can't get your weapon back. Obviously, you can't be a police officer without your weapon.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that, because that's kind of screwy the way that happened.
They preemptively did things, and we knew that the fix was in because they preemptively had talked to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor was relaying back to the chief that they had me, that they were going to do all these wonderful things to get me off the job. I'm not a police officer in Morris County. I'm a police officer in Essex County. So the jurisdiction issue was a problem. I don't have an open case anymore. All the appellate division decisions came back, and I won them. And then when I come back to the police department, there was orders to give me my weapon back. The chief at the time refused to give me my weapon back based on the order from the court. So he refused to do what he wanted to do for that, and then called in the favor back to the prosecutor's office to write a writ, which goes to the Supreme Court of New Jersey. And so I had to go to Trenton. So when that went down, long story short, I go down there and then we had this discussion. Now, end of the day, which should have never been heard. You're talking about a case that's over 4 years old, but they kept trying to drill down the thing because Morris County never had jurisdiction, but they needed that to happen because I was terminated preemptively before all my cases were done. And then when I won the case and came back to the department and gave them a letter that, this got dismissed.
So I remember the day you were no longer a police officer, they changed the code because we used to have those punch codes in the back door. They changed that, and a memo went out.
Right.
When they have never done that for anybody who retired.
No.
They never did that for anybody who left the department. It just never happened. So why you? That's something I rack my brain with. And I hate to say it's because of the color of your skin, because I know from my perspective, inside the police department, there was no color. There was no color. It's you were blue, I was blue. We work on the same team. We're brothers at that point. But damn, if it doesn't seem like that.
Well, it almost leaves you with no other reasoning to not see it that way at some aspects, because let's take away the color basis of black, white, and anything else that's there. You got 3 officers that are in the same situation almost at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And I'm going to leave the officer's name off of this because I respect them as they respect me. But the treatment in which one had was sitting on the desk prior to me. I'm on the desk second, but I got the longest stretch. Another officer has a situation and gets released. Because, see, this is when I knew it was the ill intent. Because I said, if this officer gets released before me, and I've already been sitting on this desk for over 2 years, and gets released, goes through everything I already went through, and gets released to go back on the road, and I'm still here, then there's obviously, it's going to be,
There's something wrong.
there's something wrong, right? Whether that be the color of my skin or the situation that they're trying to leverage something, or they have something that's ill intent in favors of being done. So you're trying to find this thing, but see, you left me with no other reason, with only but a wrongful termination, because no officer till this day, none of us have a record. I don't have a record. Everything that happened against me was dismissed.
Was it so? The official reason why you were terminated was
I'm incapacitated.
because you're not allowed to carry a weapon
The
anymore.
weapon. So it didn't make any sense that you have this decision, and at the time, I still had my personal weapon. There's no restraint order. So I'm incapacitated on the job. I'm still sitting here at this situation, terminated for incapacitation, but I have my personal weapon. So what they went after me for my personal weapon. Because if I can't have, how can I have this and not be able to go to work?
Right.
They don't make sense. Because see, now you're jockeying the two things. There's no case law against that. I have a constitutional right to bear arms. And now some of the laws have changed, which we have to go back and revisit. They did that so my PTC qualification would expire.
Right. 3 years. 3 years.
Right. Once the PTC qualification expired, they had what they needed, whether I had the weapon or not, because I haven't kept my qualification current.
That's crazy.
So they kept delaying on purpose because they had nothing else. So it was done with ill intent. And then the wrongful termination after went back to court, and Judge Critchley, good man, good judge. He was pro-police, and he heard every case that I've had, amongst other judges. And some things just didn't make sense.
I remember you mentioning that name.
Judge Critchley. He was a good man. And he did everything that was right. He was just and fair. Some things, could have went a different way, but he's the one that ordered my weapon back. I had lawyers that came in, and things, it's just the ill intent. And just every time I just got across that goal line, just about to hit the goal line, someone snatched it back. So you're looking at the constant push and pull, constantly like just about right there. You can't have this much fumbling and mishap and ill intent every time I'm about to win, because the win means that more people are going to get in trouble or get fired or held accountable to their behavior and actions.
You're going through all this. You're getting banged from every single direction. And then something happens. And this is one of the reasons you're so important to me.
Hmm.
I have my shooting. And I'm not sure if you were on yet or you were recently terminated. I can't remember. What year were you terminated?
I think I was on the desk.
You were on the desk. Okay, so my shooting happens. You see me totally just isolating myself. Like, why? So for those of you who don't understand, and I've talked about this in plenty of shows where there were some people who just showed up. And when I say that, it's you. I don't mention your name out of respect for you, but well, let's let the cat out of the bag. It's Freddie Mitchell. I would walk out of my garage and I'm drinking. I would sit in my driveway in a chair, drinking, and up pulls Freddie Mitchell. I disappear for a couple days. I'm getting phone calls from Freddie Mitchell. You're looking out for me, yet you're broken. Your life is in pieces at this time. Why?
I think, when we first started this conversation, I think it comes down to like the core of who we are. I think is like, being a sergeant in the military is like, I'm only as good as my men and their fitness and the ability to have family. Like, you're my family.
But what did you see in me to make you gravitate? Like, what did you see? I want to know from your perspective. And I don't think I ever asked you this.
Nah. I just need, men have a hard time. We suffer, right? We have a hard time expressing ourselves. Saying I'm good doesn't mean the fuck you're good. You're not good. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And I suffered. I was going through what I had to go through. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had my friends even know I was even off the job for 2 years before they even knew. They didn't even know I was home. So when I see a situation where you were going through, it's like, Even if I just sat there, just the presence, just being sitting next to you, just like, you know, yeah, or saying this, that, and the other, or just, you know, trying to reminisce, you know, some good things. You need to have good thoughts, you know, because you're going to be fighting this monster that nobody sees coming. And I've seen that monster before. And I know the road you're going to go down. And if you don't have anything to hold on to or thought, at least me one thing, if it can slide through, that door just has to crack open just a little bit for you, like, you know, just say not today, right? That's your theme, right? And
Not
I've been
today.
there. And I say that shit a lot. Because, you know, when I was going through it with my kids, and I said, God, and I asked God for this answer. One thing, you got to be careful what you pray for. Right?
Yeah.
You got to be careful what you pray for. Right? So me going through that, when I started losing all my shit, and I was like, you know what? I said, God, and if you do this one thing for me, I won't bitch and complain about nothing. Right? And I'll help whoever needs help. And I've always been that, whether I got it or not. So when seeing you go through that, you just need another brother. You know, you and I were only 6 months apart. I done been on the road with you and seen shit. We done walked in houses with people committing suicide.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we see these travesties happen. And then now I see someone that I work with going through the bullshit. And it's like, damn, you can't talk to the wife because she ain't going to understand. She's not a man. And then now you're going through some things that I went through in the military. And then it's like that experience brought me to being able to lend a hand to you to help you. And, you know, and it's like trying to get through and trying to help, trying to say the right things to keep your spirits tight, you know, because you're going to fall into that dark space. And it's like, man, that's a scary space to be in.
You gave me some tough love, though. You there was times when you gave me what I needed, not what I wanted, what I needed. So you pulled up one day and you had the red Mustang.
Yeah, the maroon one.
Yeah, the maroon Mustang. You pull up one day, and I remember the thought in my head, because I didn't want to talk to nobody. I remember, and I get up, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm okay. You know, the normal answers. And he like, sit your ass down. Like, you were tough. You were tough with me. You didn't handle me with kid gloves, because that wouldn't have worked with me. He's like, sit down. And we sat, and I think I still have the chairs that you and I sat
in
with.
The back, yeah,
in the back.
I remember that, yeah.
And you sat down with me, and you just talked to me, and you got me over such a sticky spot. We were there for an hour. As a matter of fact, if you go to that old house, I don't live there anymore.
Right.
If you go to that old house, you'll still see dents in the asphalt because it was hot, and the chairs were digging into the asphalt. You'll still see the dents there because we sat there. And I know a lot of people say never leave a brother behind, never leave a brother behind. Well, there's very few people who are willing to go the extra mile to do it. You're that guy who does it. So the reason I'm sitting here today, the reason that we're able to be in this studio and have this discussion is, for me, is because of Freddie Mitchell. I owe everything to you. My family owes everything to you. My wife says, make sure you tell Freddie I said hello. Make sure you tell him I love him, and make sure you tell him everything.
She's one of the strongest females. Listen, for people that don't know,
she put up with some bullshit from me.
I don't even have words for your wife. The shit you was doing and where your head was at, the strength that woman has.
She should have checked out a while ago.
Checked out?
Yeah.
Could have flown across the world and back 3 times.
Yep.
She went nowhere. And she cried and she called, and it's like I call and she pick up, and it's like, he's here, he's doing this. I'll be right over. Don't worry about it. I'll talk to him.
I would just drive around.
Yeah, I know.
I would just drive
around the little pickup truck you had at the time.
And I would turn off my phone occasionally, and then
not pick up.
When I turn it on, it's like, you better call me. You better call me.
Yeah.
And you live by a true example, even when you're broken. And that's the scary part. You know, that's a scary part where I feel guilty in retrospect. I feel guilty that I wasn't there for you because you needed me. See, now I get it. Now I understand, because there's things that happen in our lives where it just breaks you mentally. And now I'm more, I reach out to people who are in need because I know that's going to get me through that sticky spot.
Right.
I get it now. I didn't get it then. Where maybe if I was in my dark spot and I was able to reach out to you and we could have leaned on each other a little bit more, I think it would have been healthy for both of us.
You know, me being in a position to be there for you helped me. you know, it distracted me from my mess. You know what I mean? I had a lot.
Like, this guy's really fucked up. Nah, I'm all right.
Like, you know, I'm a little, you know, a little tight with mine. I leaned into some different things. You know, I had my faith and hope and things. You know, I read the Bible here and there, and you know, I had some things I can lean on. Right, I had military experience, so I dealt with the high level of stress, and I've been in, you know, some situations. So it allowed me to be able to reflect back and how to manage that, because we always had op orders and things like that we had to go through when we had a mission, and then you come back and have an after action review. So you never had that. And in the process in which the traumatic situation that you went through and experienced, no one took that time to make sure you was good.
No, as a matter of fact,
it never happened.
Our bosses thought I retired because I had glass in my arm.
No.
That was said in deposition.
Nah, it's not having the proper, and that's where the leadership aspects come in, and that's when I start questioning who you got as a leader, because that's not how it works. You know, when you have a traumatic situation, a shooting, and you got one of you guys going through something, you need to have somebody that's assigned to them. You need somebody to be calling. So I took it upon myself to do what I knew to do from the military. That's from a military side of things. You know, I was a sergeant in the Army. So the thing is like, now I'm looking at you as a soldier that needs help. And I've seen that. When soldiers get in a firefight or something blows up around them, or one of the guys get hit with shrapnel, then when you look at those things like traumatic-wise, where's his mental at? Can he go back out and perform the job? And without having that support, you're going down the dark road by yourself. And those are the things that you got to be able to support and be able to reach beyond your own self, you know, and especially with being in that leadership position I had when I had like Thanksgivings or different events. Guys couldn't go home. Guess who's doing Thanksgiving? I am. And I was just about to have a burger for Thanksgiving, and now I gotta go buy turkey and all the trimmings for the guys so they feel like they're at home.
The little kitchen. You
gotta do that thing for them. Yeah. So,
but it speaks to the type of person you are, and that's really what I want to get through to people. Now, your stuff isn't over.
Far from it.
Your stuff is not over. You're still fighting to get your weapon back, to get reinstated, and like, how does that end? The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherrie Allsup is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherrie on episode 169 of the Suffering podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherrie has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherrie's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherrie will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherrie's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques. Uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherrie Allsup guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherrie Allsup, go to sherrieallsup.com. That's SherrieAllsup.com.
I think I had to come up with a decision where my daughter got ready to go to college, and I was like, I've been fighting. And I'm winning my cases. And it doesn't make sense to why everything's not working. I had to end that battle because I had to decide whether I keep the house or my daughter goes to college. And because of not having the job anymore, I lost my income. So I ended up being homeless at some point. And then now I have my son to take care of. And then now I'm technically in the street. I'm going from house to house. I'm getting vouchers and getting food stamps. You know how embarrassing when you talk about a men's health and the situations that you're in, to be in a police uniform and then got to go to a shelter where everyone else is just like desolate and assed out. And you're just as assed out and need help. And I'm in the uniform and I got to go talk to people on the side. Like, listen, this is the circumstance, the situation I'm in. And I got to bite my tongue, swallow my pride, and every ego piece that you can touch when you're looking at someone that's been in the military, There's been a police officer that's making close to 6 figures, and you're down to 0. And still got to work the job. Still got to take care of a home, take care of kids. You got to put food still on the table. So every piece of your being, you're talking about being stripped apart. It's almost like being stripped naked in the street and someone throwing salt on you. That's how hard that it is when you're dealing with not only yourself, but the pride that comes with it. Every intricate piece of your fiber of being a man is stripped from you. For what reason? If it wasn't for the why of my daughter and my son kept me moving. They kept me alive.
Do you think that was when you're homeless, you have to check you got a big ego check going on. Do you honestly think that was your when you hit the bottom?
I'm at some low points, you know what I mean? I don't think, you have some moments. I think the moment I cried in my room the one time when I asked God not to take my kids from me, I think my lowest point was then, it'll bring you to your knees, right? I'm sitting in a room and I say, God, no matter what, and that's why I always say to you before, be careful what you pray for. Because I prayed to God, listen, I don't give a fuck what you do to me. I don't care about this job. Don't care about this badge, this weapon, or this uniform. The one thing I need you to do for me, and I'm talking straight to him. You know your son. I'm talking to you straight. Whatever you do, don't take my daughter and my son away. Guess what? I got exactly what I asked for.
Do you think without the presence of God in your life, do you think it would have gotten worse?
Yeah, because I think some decisions, all decisions are based on emotion most of the time, especially in this circumstance. And you're being provoked to react a certain way so they can build a narrative that fits their agenda. And with me having that place to go and having some crucial people, like I had Orlando Soto. He was a police officer in Orange. I had Vernon Outlaw. He was an IT corporate CEO in New York. 2 individuals from the church I went to. They kept me tight. And it was ironic that the ex-wife introduced me to these 2 men and their families. So I would be better as a better version of myself and to have something that's iron sharpens iron, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm learning the Bible. I'm learning how to implement certain things. And also, too, they're family men. So I'm learning how to bring this into the family and not just work so hard, not be militant. So she introduced me to him. But then once that happened, she reverted back to doing whatever she was doing. So as I'm getting better and becoming a better man and trying to be more forthright and, be more fruitful to the family, I'm just now being met with the devil. So the more you open yourself up to doing more of the right things, the more you get hit with opposition, more difficult times. So when I look at that being a part of my foundation piece, that definitely got me through because it gave me pause.
Well, it's real hard to lose hope without any type of higher power in your life, whatever that higher power is. Mm-hmm. Whatever religion you are, it's real. If you truly believe in what you're speaking, it's really hard to lose hope without that higher power in your life. With that higher power in your life. So, how did you start working yourself out of this hole?
I think I focused after some of this stuff was a losing battle, right? Not that I wanted to quit. Because I'm still got tenacity towards it. Because
it's a tactical retreat.
It's a tactical one because I now have more pressing, business to take care of. My kids, I got them. So now I'm met with being a single father. So now it's college.
That's definitely not quitting.
Nah.
So that's just focusing on what's important.
What's important.
And dropping the shit that's not important. Right. Jobs, not important. Family, that's important.
But in that, it took away my livelihood and my career. So now I have to do something different to do the same things that I've always going to still do. My responsibilities and obligations never changed. It's just in my landscape and environment had to change because I no longer have the means and the resources to take care of them. So I had to go out here and I ended up getting a CDL license and ended up start driving the tractor trailer. Ended up having a good couple contracts. I made more money in the first year than I did as a police officer driving the truck. But I never got a chance to actually spend that money because it went all to school to my daughter. So as you start scaling, it's just like now my son. Now I got to get an apartment. And then I'm on the road for 3-4 days when I'm supposed to be on the road for 3 weeks. I'm back making sure that my routes bring me home every 48 to 72 hours because I still got to raise him. So, you're talking about juggling an over-the-road job where I'm making it look like I'm going for only 24 to 48 hours, and I'm still riding the route that's taking me from Manassas, Virginia, up to New Haven, Connecticut. So I'm riding the East Coast corridor, the money corridor, and that thing took care of us for the next 2.5, 3 years. And then eventually, long story short, that day my daughter walks across the stage, graduates, where someone said that she'll be home after the first semester. So when people start throwing shade on the game and thinking like it's impossible, and the one thing that shook my core is when I was sleeping on my boy's couch, Derek Aiken, one of my best friends, I was sleeping on his couch. My daughter called me from her first semester in college, crying, trying to get a scholarship, trying to get some funding, and he denied her. Freshman year, you usually don't get too much funding or grants because you're high risk. So I had this high-pitched voice like, I don't know what to do. And a lightning bolt shot through me. And I'm just looking at companies to work for. But I jumped up off the couch, and I stayed with him for a little while because I was homeless at the time. And he's like, what's up, man? I said, my daughter just called. And it's in December because the first semester you can go to school with the deposit.
Right.
But you got to pay the whole semester off before you start the next one. So she had to leave her room. And actually, they really vacated her, but she lived in a quad, so she moved her stuff to her next girl's room. So from December of her finals to go back to school in January, it was December 4th, 2017 or 18 that year. I had to come up with 18 grand, and I'm at zero within less than 35 days. So I got up and called out to Indiana, and I worked for ATS, Anderson Trucking Service at the time. I flew out there in a one-way ticket, and usually you get a two-way ticket, but I said it's a one-way ticket. There ain't no felon. It's
No plan B.
No plan B. There's nothing. I got to come out there, pass the test, do all the stuff I got to do, and I got to come back to Jersey with a truck. So I went out there, flew in a one-way ticket, got the test, 2 days, came back, 3 days coming back across, dropped off loads. I made about maybe $3,500. I sent $25 to school. Then every week I got my son in an apartment because I had to get a place for him. Then I spent the next 2-3 weeks, I just been running the road, probably did 15 to 20 loads a week. And then I worked for the percentage of the load, so I got 65% of whatever I made. And then every week I was cranking it out, $2,000-$3,000 a week, sending it to school. Everything I made went to her. And then one morning, on January 21st of that next following semester, and she started school on the 24th. And I called her up, and my deposit came through, the last payment, and I needed $3,800 for her last payment. And I said I might be short, so I had a couple thousand left over from a friend. I said I might need $1,000 for a week or two, and I get it to you because I'm still making money. But that one last check came in. It was $3,400. I ended up making $38,000, and I ended up sending the $34,000 at 4 or 5 o'clock that morning. No one to call, no phones were working. It's just me in the truck by myself, and I paid that payment, and then the account went down to zero. It opened up her registration so she can get her classes. So by 6:37, she calls like, "Dad, is this right?" And I said, "Yeah, go register for class." And that was just one of those moments where you're chasing that, you constantly, and every semester and every year after that, it's been a struggle.
Your prayer is answered, though.
Oh yeah. I told God this. When I came up the highway and I went to Vernon's house, he was like a deacon at the church. And I said, "You home?" It was a Sunday. I was moving up the highway, getting ready to go up to Connecticut. He's off of Woodland Avenue at the time. He was using to be next to Mars Township Police Department. Mm-hmm. His house is right next door. And I came up there with the truck with the load, the whole truck down the residential road. Pulled in front of the house. Cheryl comes out, his wife. It's like, "Oh, God, that's a big truck." We talked all the time. He came out. I said, "God, if you get me this truck, I'm the driver behind the wheel. Just do what you need to do." I said, "I get the truck, and then I'm going to get things done." I said, "This is your truck. Just guide me to get what I have to do to take care of my kids." So he came out, put his hand on my shoulder. We prayed over the truck, and he oiled up the front of the hood of the truck, and the truck did his business. I got my prayer. He put, anointed it, and He gave me my blessing, prayed over me, prayed over the truck to do his business and to do the job that I came to do. You know, went back down the street and put it down a little tight alley, a little side road, and went back on my way, you know, and from there, 5 years into the future, I got to see her graduate and walk across that stage, you know. So
I'm going to tell you what, man.
It's been a crazy journey.
You focused your attention on what's the most important, and that's your kids, because you and I lost contact, and this so it's weird how things work out. And I'm driving down to South Jersey. My cousin's son just graduated Paris Island, and I went down for his graduation. And on the way down, I'm like, and you pop in my head, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't talked to Freddie in a long time.
Right.
Right now, I get on the phone with you, and it was the greatest thing in the world because we just picked it up. We just picked it up right where we left off. Like there was no gap in time. And it was one of the most comforting things. And this is probably March or April, April something, April 19th. That's what it was. It was April 19th. And we just pick it up. And I'm like, and I hang up the phone with you and I'm like, God, I miss my friend. I miss my friend. I miss my friend. And then, so this speaks, you go through all of that and yet you're still the same type of person because this tragedy strikes. And my friend takes his life. And something compelled me to call you. I don't know why I called you. I was just calling you to see what was up.
Yeah.
See how you're doing. And I was at my son's baseball game. This typical Freddie Mitchell fashion. He goes, where are you? I'm like, no, you know what? It's the third inning of the game. You're not going to make it here. It was in East Hanover. You're not going to make it here. He goes, I'm going to be right there. Sure enough, I see this big motherfucker walking down the hill. Here he comes. And I get the biggest hug in the world. And, man, you took away a lot of pain that day.
I heard it in your voice. You know, it's the same. I mean, you guys are close. You know, you started a business and, you know, it's a tragedy to hear that. And I said, man, it's like the things that are left behind are the ones that suffer too, right?
That's it.
And
but after you went through all of that, you took pity on a poor soul who was in some pain, and you came up on a phone call. And that speaks to the type of person you are. And I'm so happy that you never stopped being that shepherd that we talked about. So I want to know, you like, where are you heading now? Where is your like, what's the next chapter in your life? Because there's a lot of chapters, bro.
I think, you know, I guess the situation we are in now, you know, reuniting and talking about these subjects, actually, it helps on both ends. You know, like you said, there's a comfort that comes with it. You know, it's like getting the things and you're venting the truth of your life and your crisis and the hardships and the suffering that we go through. You know, we suffer in silence most of the time. And sometimes when you revere a certain person or things, you know, we have expectations. You know, you can't trust everything that you hear. You know, you got to look at the behavior of other people. Everything that moves isn't always progressive. You know, you can run in place and not go anywhere, right? So, and when you're looking at life, I think, you know, you can never sow a bad seed on good soil. You can sow good seed on good soil. You bear fruit, right? So it's just an aspect and approach that I think that when you are able to lean into what keeps you strong, I think it also lends itself to now you can be that person paying it forward to others, you know?
And that's but here it's got this weird dynamic to it. So it's the one universal about men. No matter how tough and hard you try to act, you're hurting inside. And we all are hurting inside. And I this guy reached out to me after Mike's death. His name's Evan Seinfeld. So I don't know whether Evan is the smartest or dumbest person I ever met, but Evan's the lead singer of a band called Biohazard. Do you ever remember that HBO show Oz?
Yeah.
He was Jazz Hoyt. That's Evan Seinfeld. But Evan Seinfeld is also a porn star. Okay? He was married to Tara Patrick and divorced Tara Patrick, which I questioned some of the things in his head. And then divorced her and married this woman, Little Lupe. But the point is I've been talking with him after Mike's death. And he runs this program called Mentorship. It's down in Mexico, and he'd asked me to speak at one of the events. And I'm thinking to myself, here's a guy who, on paper, has it all.
Right.
But he's hurting inside. He's hurting. He's tattooed from head to toe, but he's hurting inside. So what he figured the stuff out. In order to heal himself, he has to try to give it away and try to heal other people. So he runs these big programs where men can just sit there and be themselves. Drop your fucking ego,
Right.
and just be yourself, and let's talk. Let's real talk. You know, me and you have had real talk. And I think too many men in particular don't have that real talk. Women have it. Women are very fortunate in that respect.
Right.
But it's amazing that there's the more you think that separates us is the more that draws us together.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. I think, you know, as I was going through, you know, man, I can jump in anywhere in my life, and there's been some things, right? Unfortunately, you know, the tough part is to keep the face on, and you're broken. You know, as much as I've experienced and been in the military, like you said, you can be the tough guy and you can be that operation mentality. At the end of the day, when you see your family get torn apart based on the system and how things are being, you know, manipulated, and the misunderstandings, and, you know, the lack of communication, and, you know, and I have to put this face on, this mask, right, to keep my kids, you know, and then trying to be something for the wife at the time. And, you know, now she's the ex, right? And the system failed her as it failed me. You know, we're on the same side of things. You know, some things that, you know, you may have to go get the divorce, you may have to go your own way, but they lied to her as much as they lied to anyone else. You know, they're not there to keep your family together. So you're fighting a different system for which the intentions are completely wrong. You know, there's no room for a criminal court when a person needs medical attention. She needed grief counseling, not court and trials. You know, when a person is going through that level of loss, as we do, is like, do you become suicidal, or do you do something to fix it?
Do you have sympathy for her?
I do. And, you know, and as crazy as that may sound, I don't necessarily hate my ex-wife.
No, it doesn't sound. It doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
Because my family got destroyed behind the BS and the bullshit that I went through, obviously, because I try to save my family and try to keep their mother safe. Now, when you try to save a person that can't be saved because now you're too involved. So you're trying to keep, you know, me being in the military, you don't want to expose all your family tragedies. You don't want to be exposed, you know, because we're, as men, this is why we suffer in silence, because you want to keep those family secrets. You want to keep those family woes and problems and traumatic incidents and things that happen.
You want to show the world one thing.
Right.
That's
so
not what it is.
There's the mask, right? There's, you know, we got to unveil those things. But at the same time, it's like, if you can't take care of your family, then you're going to be labeled as weak. So you got all these mantras. Man don't supposed to cry. But
Bullshit.
You got to cry.
I cry many times. And
yeah. And that's the problem.
That's
because,
a recent thing.
Yeah. But that's, you know, like with my boys, as of right now, there's not a time that we don't get off the phone and we don't tell each other we love you. You know, that's something you never did with a dude, right? You don't say that.
I say it to a lot of people now.
We say it now. Because how many times have you got on the phone? Is this last phone call you have?
His last words to me were, "Hey, Kev, you know I love you, brother." Those were his last words to me. So guess what? I end every text message, I end all that shit now with, "Hey, I love you." And you know what? I don't care what I don't care what you think of me. That's my way of showing my affection to you. So, Freddie, we're coming to the end of this thing.
I got you.
And you've gone through an enormous amount. I mean, and you're still to some extent going through it.
Yeah.
But you had to have learned something in all of this. You had to learn something from your suffering. So what do you think all this suffering has taught you?
It's still a journey, you know, Kev. I'm still going through some things as we speak today. I think a lot of men need to sit back and then, like you say, have a safe place to be able to have that conversation. You know, iron sharpens iron. So I think, you know, you have to have those discussions. You know, we don't have the support groups or support that most of us should have to be able to have the real discussions about, mental health, jobs, the stresses of homes, because everything falls on most men's shoulders as we live life. But the lessons I guess learned is like, you got to live your life in a manner that's going to be well with you. You got to look in the mirror. And I think you got to find your own happiness. You got to find some peace, and then have the people around you that can add on to that, as an asset. Now, no liabilities out here. People go through things, and we're all human. But I think you got to look yourself in the mirror and then ask yourself that question. What do I deal with today? What makes me happy? And then you got to go seek that. And then within that, then I think life becomes a little bit easier, even in the crisis of things.
Well, thank God there's a Freddie Mitchell in this world.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're here, brother. So, you never know what's going to resonate to a person or what saves them or gets them over the hump. But I'm glad the door opened a little bit and you was able to lean in and
you have no
find
idea
some stuff.
You have no idea how much I talk about you, and I love you.
Love you too, brother.
And listen, thank you so much. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Retaliation, Part 2. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Always be a shepherd. There's always a way. Decisions, sometimes not very good ones, come in war. You are your brother's keeper. You have to look in the mirror, but most importantly, make sure you have your why. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson, of course. Follow the Suffering Podcast, and we're going to see you on the next episode.